showed a great deal of maturity in the way they came back from break. I thought they came back in great condition and in baseball condition, and that's really good when you consider the fact that we're shortened up a little bit on our preparation time. We started a little bit later in school this year than in years past, and we're starting a little earlier than we normally do as well. So with our season, so I think our kids are really focused. It's a great group to work with. I think we have tremendous leadership. I think we have some really advanced younger guys that have stepped up. And I think our kids are really excited about competing against somebody in a non-inter-squad situation. Like everybody else, I think in the entire country, we have battled the weather. It looks like we're not done with that, with what's going to happen maybe tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. But certainly having gotten outside 3 times on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this last weekend really helped us in the evaluation process and helped our kids get ready as well. So it's whether we're ready or not, it's upon us, and I think our kids and our staff are excited about the opportunity.
Questions?
Coach Cohen, what are you trying to gain heading into this weekend?
I think we're going to have an opportunity for 4 ball games to play a lot of people, which is something I really like. I notice the schedules around the country, not as many programs are playing 4-game weekends. I really enjoy that because, doubleheaders at Mississippi State are really special. And when I first got here, a lot of our fans talked about, hey, how about the Saturday doubleheader? And I wanted to bring that back to Mississippi State for our fans. But, it also forces us really into pitching at least 8 guys during the course of the weekend, because when you look at it statistically, we're not going to roll somebody past 70, 80 pitches. It's impossible to get his complete game performance out of 70 or 80 pitches. That means you're going to have to pitch some other guys. So we're really going to try and pair 2 starters with each ball game to help us get a really good evaluation for who are going to end up being those 3 guys on the weekend when we start in the league play. And we have a long time to get into that. So I think we still have a lot of competition on our club that's still in front of us.
Talk about the strength of your infield with
Brett and Alex kind of anchoring things. Just talk about what you've seen from them in the offseason and how much progress they've made.
Well, I think Alex has just really gravitated toward the third base position. He came to us as a second baseman, and I think he's really improved as a defender at third base. Really pleased with him. He's, just an on-base machine. He's just a savvy hitter. He makes everybody in front of him and behind him a better player in our lineup. His arm has been really accurate and gotten stronger over time. His range is better. Certainly Brett Pirtle, I think, has a chance to be, what he was last year and even more, a dynamic athlete who can get to balls, who can throw, who brings energy to our club, and a guy, because he's a switch hitter, brings us a lot of flexibility in our order.
You'll be running a catcher out there this weekend for the first time in Division I. Just talk about kind of that position, kind of the battle that's going on there.
Yeah, I think all of our guys have competed well. They all bring something a little bit different to the table. Really been pleased with that competition. It's hard during the course of an inter-squad game to get all 4 of those guys the same amount of time, but I think Randolph has really improved as a leader, as a pitch caller, as a blocker. His arm has come a long way. I think Collins is a freshman who just keeps getting better every single day. Just is a great receiver. I think he's starting to make some adjustments offensively. Cody Walker is a young man who probably has the best arm in the entire group. And Garner can really hit. The 4 guys, he's probably the best hitter. So, it's, if you combine those 4 guys, you have a first rounder. But each of them brings something different. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities early, for us to find out who's going to end up being that guy.
Are you starting to see your rotation kind of take shape a little bit, or is things just kind of still unsettled there?
Well, we have a lot of candidates. Really, the first weekend is going to be based upon spacing. In other words, the guys who threw for us this Friday, to give them the week off to pitch the following Friday, that Brandon Woodruff's going to start for us next Friday, but that doesn't mean, Brandon Woodruff's going to be our Friday guy when we get into league play. It just means that's what we've been timing it out to do. So certainly Brandon is a candidate for that. Trevor Fitz, will start one of the games for us for sure. Ben Bracewell will start one of those games for us. But again, when you look into Sunday, you're just going to ask yourself, who hasn't pitched, and kind of piece that together. And we have some great candidates for sure. We have some young guys who have really thrown the baseball well, and I was really encouraged. I thought Dakota yesterday and Sexton really locked horns, and two freshmen did a great job controlling the running game, throwing to the bottom of the strike zone, throwing a second pitch in the strike zone, fielding their position. So those two guys are candidates as well to pitch on the weekends for us that first weekend. So we'll see who we don't use on the first 2 days, and then we'll go into to Sunday.
What does Brandon have to do to take that junior year leap, kind of like Chris Stratton did at the top of your rotation? And how critical is that for your ball club this year?
It's funny you say that, because Chris was just with Brandon, and they were together and kind of walked in there, and they were talking pitching. It's really neat to see those guys talking, and we would love for that to happen. I think Brandon's already made a huge jump. I think he is unbelievably talented. I think he does some things. I think Chris Stratton, the first day, I think he does some things better than Chris Stratton. I think he's got a little bit more on his fastball. Chris probably had, his slider was probably a little bit better pitch, but, I think Brandon has a chance to be that guy you're describing, that guy who makes that third-year jump, and, we would love for him to be that guy who gets 90, 100, 110 innings into it. That means we're getting deep into the year and deep into tournament play, and I think he's just a really good athlete, but he's matured in such a way to where you really believe he's going to make big pitches when it matters the most. So it's been fun to watch his development. Of course, a big part of that is his relationship with Coach Thompson. Butch Thompson's just done a great job. You see where he was when he got here, and you see where he is now. It's pretty eye-opening to see his development at Mississippi State.
Do you like where your bullpen's at right now? It seems like a lot of guys have already kind of established what their roles are going to be for this year.
Yeah, we like that part because we don't want our kids to experience something in a game that they haven't experienced in practice. So Jacob Lindgren's going to come in, he's going to get a left-hander out for us, or he's going to come out in a, maybe a close type situation, or maybe a setup type situation. And I just think he has been phenomenal out of the bullpen for us. But you have to get used to that. And, pitching on a Friday and then pitching again on a Sunday, throwing an inning here and then an inning there, that's something you have to be trained to do. And certainly I think that we're in a good position for that to happen. I like our bullpen a lot. Certainly, it's kind of hard to call Ross Mitchell a bullpen guy because he's such a long-distance guy. But, he's another one of those 8 guys that's going to pitch this weekend, and he's been phenomenal. Coming off of his surgery, he has just taken off where he left off. I mean, he's just been phenomenal. Not only what he's done on the mound, but his leadership with our club has just been remarkable. So I'm very, very comfortable with our bullpen. It really, our starting pitching, a lot of was made of the fact that we didn't go deep with our starting pitching, but I don't necessarily say that's a weakness of our starting pitching. I would probably say it's a strength of our bullpen. So, I think that when you have a strong bullpen, you have to use it, and certainly we're going to do that again this year.
How's Wes Ray developing as a hitter?
Yeah, I think Wes is in the best physical condition of his career. I think Wes is, I say this a lot, but I don't want it to seem like cliche. He's like having a coach on the field. He sees the game differently than most kids his age, and he is a great defender. He's really learned how to negotiate at bats. His plan has just gotten better and better. I think if he stays healthy, and he's worked really hard to stay healthy, I think he can have a great year for us.
Is he the go-to masher in the lineup to replace Hunter this year?
Yeah, I don't think every single game, your opponent doesn't dictate. The game itself dictates who's going to be that guy. It can be your 9-hole guy in the third inning where the game can be. You have runners on second, third with nobody out, and that's where the game is. It's got to be one right there. So certainly I think Wes can be one of those guys. He will be a force in the middle, and he's a guy who has tremendous power, so you have to be careful with the way you pitch him. But I think he has a chance to be one of a collection of guys who that can hurt you if you make mistakes.
John, obviously in football, some people say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. What would you say to someone who says if you have 4 catchers, you make one first-round draft pick, but you don't have one? What would you say to someone who says maybe you don't have one, but you have 4?
Well, I think with the first phase of our season being the non-conference part, we get to find some things out. They're just things that happen in real games that no matter how much you prepare, that just don't happen in inter-squad games. And in practice. So those are the things we have to find out. And I don't think by any means we're afraid to make a decision, but we just don't have to. We get this opportunity to evaluate those guys this weekend. So that's really exciting to me. And another reason, it forces our coaching staff to play different guys when you play 4 games. You can't expect a catcher to catch in 4 games in one weekend, with the depth that we have at that position.
John, a lot of people will look at Jake Vickerson and say, well, that's Nick's younger brother. What similarities and differences do you see in those 2 kids? And just is Jake just kind of a different kind of kid than Nick, or are there similarities in how you recruited both of them and kind of player they are?
Man, it's that is a great question, and I haven't had a chance to address that as much. Those guys they're polar opposites. The Vickerson brothers. I mean, they're both great kids. I love them both to death, but they're so different. Their energy is a little bit different. The way they approach their teammates is a little bit different. But Jake Vickerson's a great baseball player. I think Nick had incredible tools, and he had to learn how to become a great baseball player. I think Jacob is a little further advanced in terms of being a baseball player, but Nick's skills his tools were undeniable. I don't know if I've ever coached a player with better arm strength. I don't know if he had a knack for stealing bases. So does Jake, and I think he's going to have a really solid professional career, but Jake is more of he's a guy who's going to see more pitches. He's going to have advanced pitch count at bats. Nick was a little bit more of an early action guy, and some of his early action helped us win regional games. Hit maybe one of the biggest home runs in postseason history in the history of our program. So, it's neat to see those guys because it's kind of amazing how you can see 2 kids who are brothers just have completely different personalities.
You mentioned using a lot of players, being forced to go 4 games. Do you see this as an opportunity to test some combinations like your 2 middle infield and your corner outfielders that you've been alternating during the scrimmage games?
Yeah, we're going to play a lot of different folks, Dave, and I think, again, it's not because we're wavering on the decision. It's because, you want your players to force you into that. You want your players to work so hard and perform so well that, you got to make different decisions. So certainly I think our outfield is as competitive as any outfield in the country. When you look at the speed out there and the arm strength and the offensive capabilities of all those kids in the outfield, it's pretty remarkable. I don't know if I've ever coached a collection of outfielders who are skilled as this group, but you're going to only be able to put 3 guys out there, and you're going to have kids who are, and I really believe we have these kids. They're team first guys who understand that we have a tremendous amount of talent in our outfield.
You got 2 guys coming back that are seniors in your outfield, CT and DeMarcus. How do you kind of, fill their roles, along with that 3rd spot in the outfield, and kind of work some of you guys out there as well?
Yeah, Derek's a senior as well.
That's right.
Yeah, so we have 3. Derek has improved. He might be one of our most improved players. He's really come a long way as a defender in the outfield. We feel very comfortable with him out there. His arm's gotten better, and even his base stealing. Even with he might be the fastest player in our league, but his base stealing ability, I think, has really improved. He's honed that ability, and we're going to have some really tough decisions. We'll probably do some matchup out of our outfield. DeMarcus has just come so far, and I think one of the neat things about DeMarcus is he's really gravitated, embraced the opportunity to play right field. And right field at Dudy Noble, especially at the end of a day, and middle toward the end of the day, the way the sun sets in the west, it's hard. I know that for a fact because I failed out there miserably many times. It's tough. You're looking right into wind, sun, and everything else, shadows. And I think DeMarcus has worked really hard to become very good out there. And we lost maybe the premier right fielder in all of college baseball a year ago. So somebody's going to have to step forward. But I think we have some great candidates for that.
What is it about that leap between sophomore and junior year, that off season? What happens with kids? It just seems like, right, your coaching career, or maybe even you as a player, there's a switch that gets flipped. Chris Stratton, Hunter Renfroe, the list goes on about just when they get to that junior year, everything kind of changes for them.
I think with every year with Chad Gerardo, it took 4 years. Everybody's different, but certainly you're right. After that second year, that junior year is crucial. I think every one of these kids wants to play professional baseball, and that's the first year that it's available to them at the end of the year if they get drafted. I think there's a ton of incentive. I think after 2 years, you want to show everybody that you've made that jump. I don't buy into the sophomore jinx thing, but certainly I think after playing for 2 years in this league, I think I think it should prepare you to leap forward with your skill level and with your experience.
Looking this weekend, how much will the opponent, scouting them, not just settle your lineup, but also how you approach the batting order?
Well, we spent a lot of time this week preparing for the running game because that's something they do really well. They stole a ton of bases a year ago. And we have heard that they'll run up 5, down 5. They're just going to run. I think that's great for us because that's something that we need to be proficient at. And I thought we did a really good job with that this weekend in preparation and in the previous weeks. Again, Butch does a great job with that. So, I think our preparation has been really geared toward the first weekend because that's all we have in front of us. So there's nothing really beyond that to look toward. But we've been able to get a ton of film, and I think we have a pretty nice scout report for a club that has a lot of new faces. I think we have a lot of good information.
You experiment some with the top of the order, working in front of Wes and guys like that.
Yeah, I think we will. The neat thing is after the Friday ball game, maybe even during, once you get a feel, you watch a team take batting practice, you see them play for 9 innings, I think you have a much better feel for what you want to do. I want to get as many people out there in game situations as possible because, I remember my first time to run out there, and I think everybody who's ever played at Mississippi State remembers that first time. And you have to build and move beyond that. I mean, it's getting your feet wet's really important because you don't want that to happen in conference play. You want the folks who are going to be playing in conference play to have that good experience in the non-conference segment.
What do you expect out of Reed Humphreys?
Yeah, Reed has been really good. He's another one of those guys who deserves opportunities. He's really improved at third base. His arm is something that he's battled back from surgery and gets a little bit better every day. The fact that he gets to take ground balls every day with a senior and Alex Detz, who I think is a really good role model and a really good player, I think that's really neat for him as well. And that's one of the things that I have said about our program since arriving here in Starkville is that I think it's just critical that these young players are getting to be around kids in our team who have experienced Omaha and postseason and all of those things because I think it really helps the development of these kids. So I think Reed's going to be a really good player.
Last fall, you talked about
Two
the
more
progression
questions.
of Jacob Lindgren and his conditioning, the progression of his game after summer camp. Have you seen him kind of on pace with that progression? What kind of role do you see him in this?
I do. We feel like his role is going to – I keep saying he's more of a sprinter than a long-distance guy. And I really think if you tell Jacob, hey, we need you to get these two guys out, I think you're going to see 92 to 94. I think you're going to see an 85 to 87 mile-an-hour slider. I think you're going to see big league stuff. I think as a starter, Jacob had a little bit more of a tendency to pace himself I think he's in more of an attack mode as a reliever. I think he's very capable. I'm not a scout, I'm not a GM, but I could see him being a reliever, a left-handed reliever in the big leagues one day. He's got that kind of arm, he's got that kind of stuff.
Adam left some pretty big shoes to fill at shortstop. How is Britton and Seth kind of filling that void?
I think both those guys have progressed nicely. I think Britton at his best is one of the best defenders in our league. There has never been a question about that. He has arm strength. He has great lateral quickness. He has length. He has long limb length, but he gets into a very low fielding position, which is critical for a shortstop. He can get it in and out of his glove. He's got great range. Very impressed with what he has done, the way he's turned the corner offensively in the fall and the early part of the spring. So I think we're really excited. Seth Heck is somebody who's come in and fit in nicely. Really has worked hard to compete for a job on our infield, and I think those guys have really complemented each other well.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.